The Ginger Fury. Yeah. He's, honestly, what are his overheads? Like, $200 a night? He's got a guitar, a microphone, and a divvy looper pedal, and a tour manager. What does he want the big tour bus for? And he's a very nice guy, and he's got a heart of gold. He's got a heart of ginger, actually. The Mighty Kinks. Ray Davies, one of the great songwriters in history. Dave Davis, one of my favourite guitarists. There were two brothers in a band, which I can relate to. I feel their pain. Waterloo Sunset, one of the great songs of the 60s, was actually released the week I was born in 1967. Something which Ray Davies remains extremely proud of to this day. Public Image Limited, fronted by the legendary John Lydon, formed in the wake of the Sex Pistols. Great bass player called Jar Wobble on bass. A band that became influential maybe 20 or 30 years after they broke up. But saying that, they're still going today. And John is one of my all-time heroes. The Smiths. I can't say enough about this group. I was a fan from day one, still a fan to this day. Johnny is one of my closest friends. Morrissey I know Morrissey, he's a dude, one of the funniest men I've ever met in my entire life. When you go and see Morrissey, which I have done regularly, and he plays those songs, and they're great, you always think, wouldn't it be great if Johnny was playing the guitar, because no one plays them quite like Johnny. And when I went to see Johnny recently at Brixton Academy singing those songs, and it was great, and the crowd are carrying it along, and you're thinking, wow, that's great, but imagine both of them on stage. It would be, because I was such a huge fan of the Smiths and still am, it would be so amazing, but I'm not sure it would ever happen. I'm not sure either of them are that interested. This is a shame because it would be great, but let's look to the future. Of course, the Rolling Stones, one of the greatest bands of all time. Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, pair of dudes. Tears for Fears. Now, Tears for Fears are widely regarded in my recording studio as the Beatles of the 80s. They had the best tunes. I was a fan. Not a lot of people know that. I mean, I wasn't a new romantic, but I was a fan of theirs, and I still listen to Tears for Fears regularly. Shout, one of the greatest songs of my lifetime. The Jam, one of the greatest bands in my lifetime. The La's. Songwriter in the La's is a bit of a kind of mystic genius by the name of Lee Mavers. They only made one album, and I've disappeared off the face of the earth ever since. The Who from London, Shepherd's Bush to be exact, they did an album in the 70s called Tommy, and it was about a deaf, dumb and blind kid who played a pinball machine in a cafe somewhere and was really good at it. Why anybody thought to make a film about it, beyond anybody. The U2 from the Joshua Tree, which I was lucky enough to go on tour with the U2 a couple of years ago, and when they did their Joshua Tree tour, came to Australia. I had a great time. Where the Streets Have No Name, when they play it live, still remains one of the greatest moments in rock. The video is amazing, they're amazing, U2. The thing I like about U2 is at the end of the Joshua Tree, they kind of threw it all up in the air, and they came up with the album Achtung Baby. And I remember queuing up to buy Achtung Baby the day it came out outside Our Price Records in Piccadilly Gardens in Manchester. And when I got it home to play it, I genuinely couldn't believe how good it was. And Mysterious Ways is a song that I love to play at home on the acoustic guitar sometimes. And again, these are some of the legends of our time. I was with Bono a couple of weeks ago down in the south of France, and he reminded me that he gave me the chat. Bono always gives young Betty in the 90s the talk. And he said, you remember the talk I gave you about cracking America? And I went, well, no, I don't remember it, and it didn't go very well, did it? He was saying, no, I was telling you that you've got to go to America and tell them
how great America is. And I was like, yeah, I wish I'd have mentioned that to the singer before we got on the plane, who came here and said the opposite with subtitles. And but no, what I take off them is they were one of my favourite bands growing up. The fact that the four of them are all still together is good fun to be around. They can throw some parties. I can tell you that for nothing. And all their kids are friends with my kids and all that, and it's a wonderful thing. My daughter, who's 19, Bono's son Elijah is in a band called Inhaler, who's just signed a record deal in the UK to Polydor, I think. My daughter, who's a budding photographer, shot their artwork for their album and is currently in Dublin doing their video. And me and Bono will sit there sometimes and go, yeah, funnily, they haven't worked out that they're too cool to hang out with us yet, though, but it's coming.
Young fathers, they're fairly newish. I'd say they might be 5 years old, but great kind of contemporary electronic punk rock, lots of energy. The first thing Bobby Gillespie said to me, which I'll never forget, this is Noel from Oasis. Oh, right. And the first thing he said was, what's your favourite Bob Marley B-side? And I thought, really? And someone handed me a guitar that night. Play me your favourite song. And I played him This Guy's in Love with You by Burt Bacharach. He didn't say much after that, and we were firm friends ever since. I woke up in his house. I had no idea how I got there. We were on tour. We were due in Paris to do a show the next day, and alcohol had been taken on board. And I was hanging, the worst I'd ever felt in my entire life. Shane MacGowan was involved. ABBA, Swedish songwriting collective in the 70s. I do believe they were massive in Australia, which has always fascinated me. Waterloo, one of their best songs, but actually a great tune. And two lads in it are pretty cool as well. David Bowie. People say to me all the time, what is it about David Bowie that songwriters really into? It's like, well, people may go on about, you know, his wildly extreme image changes and the fact that his collaborations moved through the decades and the clothes that he wore and all that. But for me, any man that's got one eyeball a different colour than the other is a genius. And it's something that I wish I could have aspired to, like have a yellow one and a black one, but he had a red one and a brown one. I mean, come on. Not even Jesus had two different coloured eyeballs. Echo and the Bunnymen, whatever that means, I have no idea. But Seven Seas, again, a great bass line. Actually met the bass player who lives in Australia. We met him when we were on tour there with U2 last summer, Les.